St. John's Monastery. The gangers were gone from the island. They'd either been defeated or fled to do better elsewhere in the world. But one remained, unhinged, alone, mad. One ganger lived on. When two explorers came to the island, the ganger feasted on their ship's captain. But the explorers avoided him and found the Doctor, in his fifth incarnation, who was cleaning thick, gungy Richter vomit off his companion, Chameleon. With an acid rainstorm drawing in, the Doctor forced the twin explorers underground as he came face to face with himself. But just as the two doctors met, a bolt of lightning from the approaching acid storm struck Chameleon. The explosion knocked the Doctor out, leaving him to the mercy of the other Doctor.
This is a recorded message from the TARDIS computer banks.
You've entered the room of memories. I am the Doctor.
I'm the Doctor.
I'm the Doctor.
I'm the Doctor.
I'm the Doctor. I'm the Doctor. I'm the Doctor.
I'm the Doctor.
I have lived thousands and thousands of years and faced deadly adversaries. I've had 14 faces, past, present, and future.
But 14 is not all.
There are more than I know. More Doctors. More than I will ever be able to count. But the real question still stands.
Doctor Who?
The Doctor slowly awakened. Opening one eye and then the other, he found himself in a dark and dusty room, lit only by candles. There were crates and a few pieces of heavy machinery around. There was a heavy patter of rain on the roof, and in the corner of the room was the Doctor. The other Doctor, the tweed one with the bow tie and no shoes. This Doctor was using a golden device with a green light to fix a significantly damaged Chameleon. "What happened?" gasped the Doctor, rubbing his eyes. The bow-tie Doctor looked over to him. "I rescued you. The storm. Lightning struck Chameleon and, well, he exploded a little. I've done relevant repairs. He should be back to his normal self again. My trusty Sonic never fails. If I hadn't dragged you in here, then the acid rain would have eaten away at your flesh. Ha! Flesh. I rescued you, see? Didn't leave you for dead. That shows which one of us is more compassionate." He waved his hands around like he was miming along to his words. He was energetic and smart. He played with his bow tie, and yet he had shadowed, tired eyes. "Thank you," muttered the Doctor as he slowly got to his feet. "Sorry, but I seem to have forgotten. What's your name?" The bow tie Doctor smirked. "I'm the Doctor." "Oh no. Oh yes. I feel quite in two minds. Anyway, what are those explorers, Josiah and Mal?" "Vamoose, scarpered, bolted, ran away. Hopefully into the ruins. Somewhere here, but I've no idea where to. Hopefully Chameleon's heat ray vision can track them down. When it comes to traveling with robots, I prefer the Tin Dog. Much more reliable." He smirked again. This time he couldn't seem to undo his smirk. He had to use his hands to reshape his face into a more neutral position. "So, which regeneration are you then?" "You don't remember me?" The Doctor was still coming to his senses, but even he knew he'd remember his faces. "Huh, it's complicated. You know, you aren't filling me with confidence. Also, where are your shoes?" Now, the Doctor was awake and paying attention, meticulously noting every inch of the decrepit room. "Also, I can hear water, but it's not the sea. It's too close to be the sea." The Doctor fell to the ground, putting his ear to the dirty floor. "Is there a river running underneath this floor?" The bow-tie Doctor grimaced. "What did you say?" He spoke sharply, his tone changed. "A river? Is there one running underneath this floor?" The word lingered with the bow-tie Doctor. River. River. It played on a loop in his head. An internal madness within him. River. 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 But why that word? Why river? The thought lingered, drowning out all other thoughts. The word rattled him, caused his skin to turn all gooey, and forced him to collapse like he was having some kind of fit. The doctor panicked and darted over to the bow-tie doctor, attempting to find some way of calming him, but it was nothing like he'd ever seen before. The bow-tie doctor's body contorted on the floor, his skin became pale, and his eyes leaked white liquid before he spewed white jelly onto the floor. The doctor took a thermometer from his coat pocket and stuck it in the jelly. The jelly was so hot the thermometer melted. Thinking fast, he picked up the buzzing device the other doctor was using to repair Chameleon and pointed it at the jelly. The device buzzed and the green light shone brightly as the jelly seemed to react to it. It bubbled and fizzed as though it were sentient, reacting to the device. Interesting. A living organism. This is no illness, this is organic. As though it's part of you. A symbiote. Time Lord? I'm not certain of that. This device. Sonic screwdriver, I presume? Not very sleek. And as soon as he had said that, he promptly threw it over his shoulder, never to be seen again. The bow-tie doctor looked up to the doctor, who was now wearing a pair of half-moon spectacles. I wear a stick of celery now. A stick of celery is cool, spoke the bow-tie doctor as he brushed his lapel, and suddenly a stick of celery appeared there. The doctor looked down, his suspicions confirmed. Now, no Time Lord can do that. Who are you? I said, I'm the doctor. I never said that I was a Time Lord. The bow-tie doctor picked himself up and leaned against the shaky wall. Sorry, I should have been straight with you from the beginning. The doctor gave him a stern look and sat down on a nearby boulder. He invited the other doctor to do the same. You're not a Time Lord, but you are the doctor. I think you'd better tell me your story. The bow-tie doctor hesitated and bit his lips so hard that he cut it and white liquid dropped out, but he quickly wiped it away. This ruin is St. John's Monastery, and in the past, it was an industrial site where deadly chemicals were used and thus throwaway organisms were needed to deal with the chemicals. The organisms were the gangers. Gangers were pure flesh creatures created to handle the deadly chemicals on the basis that they were disposable organisms. That's obscene, interrupted the doctor, rising from his chair. They are living beings! I know. You protested it. Well, we'll protest it. Us were very much against it. But when you arrived here in the future, the gangers understood that you were of superior intellect and thus created their very own ganger version of you. And that's how I was born. One of the gangers went rogue and destroyed the monastery, but we were able to sort out a truce between remaining gangers and humans and got them away safely. Sadly, the ganger of me and my good friend Cleves could not come with you, and we got left here. I expected to melt, but something wouldn't let me. I suspect it was the Time Lord part of me that kept me here, keeping me as a metamorphosing, unstable ganger. It is a pitiful existence. The doctor looked down, and then looked to the ruins. The rain was still thundering down, the patter echoing through the hollow ruins. Why didn't you just leave this place? Because I am unstable. I have these lapses of being doctory and then lapses of being monstrous. The captain of the boat that your two friends arrived in. I didn't mean to kill her. It just sort of happened. Ganger instincts remaining. But now you are here, things feel different. It's although the psychic link has been re-established with the original host being of which this ganger is based. The doctor tried to make sense of it. He was only in his 5th incarnation and hadn't yet the adventures at St. John's Monastery. How can I help you? He wondered, his eyes glanced between the 2 sticks of celery. The bow-tie doctor's faux celery seemed to be withering by the second. That doesn't matter now. What matters is making sure those 2 humans are safe. Now, Chameleon, where are they? Chameleon, still weak from being crippled by Richter vomit, pivoted upright. His gears chewed away any last particles of the grungy substance from his innards. He used internal oil to wash down his voice box, and suddenly his eyes turned from a cold silver to a burning red as they scanned the ruins. He turned a full 360 degrees, seeking the 2 abandoned building explorers, Josiah and Mal. Eventually, he saw their bodies down a few floors in a large open room with a body-sized metal casket in the middle. They are below. Chameleon, will you guide us? The real doctor got up and put his somewhat scorched hat on his head, ready for the off. Chameleon nodded. The Ganger doctor grinned. Well, no time to wait. I don't suppose either of you have seen my sonic screwdriver. Chameleon and the real doctor stared blankly at each other. Chameleon's eyes were still a furious shade of red. The heat vision seemed to have located something directly below them. Doctor, the robot began, below us, approximately 30 feet, there is some sort of lava river running in the basement of this monastery. Lava? The doctor was aghast. Surely it was not possible for there to be any lava this far inside a building and nowhere near any tectonic plates. I think we better check that out. It doesn't seem very natural. The doctor was interrupted. The Ganger doctor shot up and wandered between the doctor and Chameleon as he put his arms over their shoulders. Well, yes, we can check it out, but I think first we should find Josiah and Mal. They might be in trouble. Yes, of course. Chameleon, lead on. And with that, the rickety robot hobbled out of the room and out into the dangerous, dusty ruins of St. John's Monastery. The trio of the two doctors and Chameleon seemed to maneuver through the crumbling ruins for nearly an hour, attempting to navigate the destroyed, claustrophobic environment. It was nearly an impossible task. Fumes seemed to emit throughout the building, coming from the basement. One false move from any of the trio would cause the entire structure to rattle and creak. The rain, too, seeped into the ruins wherever the roof was punctured. It was truly a perilous journey, one that required the utmost focus and care. The doctors had both focus and care. Chameleon, however, was somewhat haphazard and often needed the doctors to carry it through the riskier areas, which became tedious and even more dangerous when they had to carry Chameleon through small gaps in walls. The threat of the entire building falling onto their heads if they stopped pushing on was enough motivation to keep them moving through the ruins. Eventually, however, they bashed through a loose wooden door and ended up in the same room as the sleeping Josiah and Mal. The two lads had been completely drained by their adventure and were now sleeping under a blanket of dust in a corner of the room. The real doctor woke them gently from their slumber. They woke with a start, but were pleased to see that the doctor was all right. Meanwhile, the Ganger doctor was staring into that person-sized metal casket in the middle of the room. Seeing it brought back memories. He looked to his shoeless feet. He remembered a girl with red hair. She was nice. Pond was her name. But he couldn't remember much else about her. However, he could easily remember everything about her husband Rory. The Ganger looked into the metal casket, the bed where all Gangers were born from. Something awakened within him. He dashed over to a narrow opening in the wall that led to the outside world, and he spewed white jelly once again. His skin transformed from peachy to almost translucent white with vibrant red veins. The real doctor comforted the twins. He explained to them the situation and that all they had to do was sit tight until the acid rainstorm passed. Well, if you're sure. I'm not sure what to make of you, but I suppose we have little alternative but to believe you, Mal grunted with a yawn. This expedition had tired him out more than any other. Josiah had focused on the Ganger doctor, who had stopped spewing and was now talking with Chameleon. Who's he? Josiah pointed. Robots were well known in the time period, but the idea of a hermit living on St. John's Monastery seemed a bit far-fetched. Well, the doctor began, trying to think of a suitable explanation. He's another doctor. Don't worry about him, he's in my care. The twins confessed their tiredness, and the doctor said no more and left them to sleep. His watch had been cracked when climbing through the ruins, so he had no idea what time it was. But from the visible darkness outside, he presumed it was probably late at night, and it would be more beneficial for the twins to get some sleep. Even though they were two strong lads in their early 20s, the day had seemed to have overcome them dramatically, both mentally and physically. Josiah and Mel had previously been in the army, where they had campaigned over 3 continents, yet they retired from the service to take up exploring on the internet, a profession that, at first, seemed much safer. Their experiences in the military, however, did give them one special skill that they were currently utilizing: the ability to sleep anywhere, no matter the danger. The doctor moved over to the gap in the wall and peered out at the acid rain and the grim night. It wasn't inviting, but the sanctuary of the ruins was welcome. Then the doctor looked back around at his surroundings. Something was amiss. There were the twins sleeping. There was the bronze man-sized casket. And there was the bow-tie doctor staring idly around. It took the doctor a minute. Then he realized it. Chameleon was missing. "Doctor, where's Chameleon?" But the doctor stared back blankly, as if he had a double take.
"Sorry, Chameleon. I don't know. He was here a minute ago."
He spoke robotically and was very rigid. Didn't even flap his hands around like he had moments earlier. There was something not right about this vision of the Ganger Doctor. The real doctor pushed forward at him and the facade slipped away. The silver lights glimmered and the Ganger Doctor transformed into Chameleon. It had been Chameleon standing there. The Ganger Doctor was the one that was missing. "Chameleon, what are you playing at?" snapped the doctor, red-faced. Chameleon seemed dazed. His head twitched and his arm juddered.
"He did something. Forced me to. He has your image. He is in many ways you. I could not refuse a command from you."
"But it wasn't me, it was him! He just happens to look like a future regeneration of mine." The doctor pressed buttons on Chameleon's chest, trying to stabilize the rogue robot. After nearly snapping off Chameleon's arm, the robot returned to a neutral position. "Where did he go?" the doctor rushed to ask. Chameleon's eyes blazed red again as he scanned the ruins.
"He has gone to the lava river below."
"Right. Chameleon, stay here and keep an eye on Josiah and Mal. If they wake, tell them where I've gone. I need you to also send a message to the TARDIS. Inform Tegan and Turlo of what's going on and ask them politely to stay on board the TARDIS at all costs. I don't want them to leave the TARDIS during this storm."
"As you wish,"
spoke the serene robot as it computed all the necessary data.
"What will you do?"
The doctor smiled nervously. "I'm going to see what our friend is up to. There's something going on here and I intend to find out what." With that, he dashed out of the room and ventured back out into the crumbling ruins. It took him nearly half an hour to venture further down into the ruins. He had to vault destroyed stairways, pass fallen girders, and avoid noxious gases that were being emitted from all around. But after the tedious and hazardous journey, the doctor now stood in a large sewer-like chamber in the basement. The room was large and deep. He stood on a walkway that went around the first floor of the chamber. The ground floor was unreachable, for it was flooded by flowing white gunge that was moving back and forth like a tide in the large room. There was a walkway going across the center of the chamber, on which sat the Ganger Doctor, who was dipping his toes in the white gunge. He looked solemn. The room was boiling hot, and it was clear to the real doctor that the lava that Chameleon had noted was this bizarre white gunge which had strange, thin red lines running through it. It was a river of flesh. "I'm sorry," mumbled the Ganger Doctor. The real doctor was standing on a far walkway behind him. The Ganger hadn't even seen him come in, but he could still feel his presence. As the real doctor walked further in, the Ganger Doctor made a gesture and an arm of white gunge rose from the river and sealed the door of which the real doctor had entered. There was now no escape. "Ah, I perceived this was a trap," remarked the real doctor, who was perspiring in the heat. The Ganger Doctor stood up on the central walkway. The gunge beneath him got more agitated as he did so. "I had to lead you here. The river of flesh wanted to meet you." The real doctor walked out onto the unsupported central walkway, too, and joined his Ganger self. The doctor pulled a yo-yo from his pocket and bounced it once so that it skimmed the surface of the flesh river, but even this gentle skimming was enough to cause the yo-yo to light on fire due to the heat of the flesh. "The river wanted to meet me. I assume it's sentient."
It is. The river is composed of the broken down carcasses of every dead ganger on this island. But they're not dead. The flesh lives on, reforming, changing, existing. It lives, but it is forgotten about. On visiting that room where Josiah and Mal slept, I realized something. I'm not who I thought I was. You see, I couldn't remember Amy. I knew I'd always remember Amy, but then I realized I hadn't really seen Amy much with these eyes. I was more familiar with her husband Rory, and it made me realize I'm not the original Ganger Doctor. When this Ganger form was first utilized, I was Jennifer Lucas. Then, when I found myself alone on this island, I transmogrified into this form, the form of the Doctor. A stronger form than little, putrid, loathsome Jennifer Lucas. In this form, I had the Doctor's memories, his experiences, his life, and a bit of his psychic capability, which made me a superior Ganger. But the Doctor side of the Ganger fought back against my dream of taking control of this world. It made me unstable and confined me to this island. But then you came here with your TARDIS, and the link to the host became whole again. I became whole again. Then the flesh wanted to meet you. So here we are.
Under where the Doctor stood, the flesh seemed to boil and fizz rapidly, as though it were reacting to his very presence. It scanned him, got used to him, refilled his mind with his memories and his identity. The entire river seemed to move and convulse violently. Figures started to emerge from it, a dozen of them created from the Doctor's memories, past, present, and future. First, they were shapeless blobs of flesh, and then they developed features and climbed up out of the river to stand around the walkway, draining the river as they left it. The figures changed, becoming people. They became the Doctor, each of the 15 newly formed creatures becoming an incarnation of the Doctor. Now the real Doctor stood, trapped on the walkway, surrounded by gangers of himself. Every incarnation, 1 through 13, including the War and Meta-Crisis incarnations, stood present with white, gooey faces and horrific grins.
What have you done? Gasped the Doctor. You might say I've multiplied.
The Ganger of the 11th was ecstatic and straightened his bow tie. The whole room seemed to echo as each of the Gangers looked across each other, and all at once they declared, I'm the Doctor!